few months, I finally watched Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra all the way through. That means that now it's time for me to rank all 7 seasons from the worst to the best. Before we get started, I have to offer the obligatory spoiler warning. This video will contain pretty heavy spoilers for all 7 seasons. You've been warned. Without further ado, let's get started. In last place is going to be The Legend of Korra Book 2 Spirits. Legend of Korra Book 2 is easily the weakest of the bunch. There's a poorly thought out storyline, inconsistent character choices, unexplored themes, and just some strange additions to the lore. There's a lot of tension between Korra and other characters like Tenzin, Tonraq, and Mako that just feels forced. On top of that, there's also a lot of character decisions that just feel out of character. The way Korra snaps at Mako over everything just feels off, and while I don't mind that this season made Bolin a celebrity, I actually think that's kind of a fun direction to take his character. I think that making him spoiled, egotistical, and brash just was wrong. Asami becomes almost a non-character and has barely anything to do throughout the season. She's so flat that the writers had to reintroduce the love triangle plotline just to give her something to do. If I had to give it a positive, I do like Tenzin's arc. I like the way that he works out his tension with his siblings and learns that his dad wasn't always the man he idolized. Also, I actually like the beginning story arc, even though I'll admit that it does poke some holes in the lore. I really love the character of Wan and think his character arc is nearly perfect, but don't really like the idea of Rava and Vaatu at all. They just don't fit the philosophical ideas of the Avatar universe. Overall, there are a few positives, but it's still definitely the weakest season. At number 6 is going to be Legend of Korra Book 4 Balance. This season starts out with one of the best storylines in the franchise, the PTSD storyline. This season also does a really good job exploring the ramifications of the previous season while also having its own storyline. I love that we get to see Korra at her lowest low point and struggle to find her place as the Avatar. While Kuvira's motivations are a little weak, I really love the way her character parallels Korra. They both struggle with a sense of vulnerability and will go to great lengths to prove that they're not weak. I'm mixed on how this season handles its side characters. While I loved seeing Toph again, abandoning those who need her most felt a little bit out of character. Bolin's arc is decent as he finally confronts his gullible nature. This season's definitely oversaturated with redemption arcs, and some work better than others. The final few episodes also feel a little bit tonally inconsistent. It's revealed that Kuvira's plan was to create a giant Megazord, which is pretty corny and the animation isn't great. Overall, it has its fair share of problems, but could have been a far weaker conclusion to the franchise. At number 5 is going to be Legend of Korra Book 3 Change. This season was the hardest to place because it has some of the highest highs and some of the lowest lows in the franchise. I know that this is the fan favorite Legend of Korra book, but I think some of the praise it gets is a little bit hyperbolic. There's a lot in this season that I think doesn't really work, especially in the first half. Tenzin training the new airbenders feels very sloppy. There's something about that plotline that just feels uninspired. Also, I don't really care for the plotline about the Earth Queen trying to conscript airbenders, especially since it doesn't really go anywhere. That being said, the second half of this season offers some of the best storytelling in the Avatar franchise. All of the side characters like Jinora, Kai, Su, and Lin have really solid character arcs. Korra and Asami begin to have a clearly defined relationship after having little to no interaction in books 1 and 2. The action is incredible, with the Aang's children versus the Red Lotus fight being one of the most brutal in the franchise.
Give up. It's over.
As long as I'm breathing, it's not over.
The final few episodes are some of the most suspenseful in the series. They pay off things that we as the audience did not realize were set up.
Incredible.
You're a lava bender.
I'm mixed on the main villain Zahir. I love the fact that we get an airbender villain, especially one who's so deeply entrenched in airbender philosophy, which is usually peaceful and non-violent. He also has a pretty well-written character arc when compared to some other Avatar villains. He does genuinely grow and change as a person over the course of the series. However, he does fall into the bad guy that justifies doing terrible things by rambling about some philosophical BS that is common in the fantasy genre. Overall, I get why some people love it, but I just don't. If the entire season was as good as the second half, this could be much higher on the list. At number 4 is going to be Avatar The Last Airbender Book 1, Water. Putting this season this low on the list is going to be an unpopular choice, and I want to make it clear that I do really like this season. I just think the ones above it are a bit better. What the season does really well is introduce the audience to the world of Avatar, the different cultures of the 4 nations, the different bending styles, who the Avatar is, how and why the war started, the history of the world, and more are all clearly established. This season also does a great job setting the stage for a lot of character development and world building that would come later. From the moment a character is introduced, his or her personality, goals, skills, and dynamics with other characters are all clearly established. Commander Zhao is a great villain. We understand that he's so driven that he often lets his emotions get the better of him. This season also features some great standalone episodes, with Imprisoned and The Deserter being 2 of my favorites. However, this season does also feature a few weaker episodes like The Fortune Teller, Bottle of the Water Tribe, and of course, The Great Divide. What makes these episodes weak is that because the characters' personalities were not really fleshed out yet, their decisions in these episodes feel contradictory to the personalities that were eventually established later on. For example, in The Great Divide, Aang lying his butt off to the feuding tribes feels out of character to the Aang we would come to know and love. Overall, this season is still a great introduction to the franchise, but it does have some Season 1 isms. At number 3 is going to be The Legend of Korra Book 1 Air. Putting this season this high will be a very unpopular opinion. Like I said before, I love Avatar Book 1, but this season just feels more confident and sure of itself. Right from the start, we know who each character is, what the main conflict is supposed to be, what the new tone is, and where the story is heading. I didn't really expect the new tone to be what it be. It's much more steampunk than I imagined, but it really works. Korra is a great protagonist because her personality is so different from Aang's, and her arc really works. I really like the new Team Avatar. Each member has their own distinct role on the team, and no character feels like a repeat of a character from the original series. Amon is a great villain. We understand why he wants to achieve what he wants to achieve, and his backstory is dark for a kid's show. A lot of people don't really like the ending to this season because they think it's a Deus Ex Machina, and honestly, I don't disagree. But all 7 Avatar seasons, with the exception of maybe Legend of Korra Book 3, have some sort of Deus Ex Machina at the end. It's kind of a tradition, honestly. Plus, this scene gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. There's only 2 things I really don't like about this season. 1, it never really explains why Amon can take people's bending away. How exactly he got that ability doesn't really make sense in universe. And 2, the love square between the 4 leads doesn't really need to be there and doesn't really work. It feels way too YA. Our runner-up is Avatar The Last Airbender Book 3, Fire. This is a lot of people's favorite season, and I can see why. There are a ton of great episodes, like The Day of the Black Sun, The Firebending Masters, The Boiling Rock, The Southern Raiders, and of course, Sozin's Comet. This book perfectly wraps up all of the character arcs from the series. Aang finally masters all 4 elements and becomes a fully formed avatar. Katara learns to let go of hate and let love drive her. Sokka finally becomes a strong and capable leader. Toph learns that asking for help is not a sign of weakness and that it's okay to rely on others. Zuko learns that honor is not something that can be given or taken away, but instead something that a person achieves due to his or her choices. Finally, Iroh decides to no longer be neutral in the conflict and take action against the Fire Nation. There are a few things that hold this season back from first place for me. First, it's very front-loaded with standalone episodes. A lot of episodes in the first half of the season don't really progress the story forward. I usually don't mind standalone episodes because they help flesh out the universe and the characters, but when there's too many of them in a row, it really stunts the pacing. Second, I wish we had more time with Zuko as a good guy. While every episode with him on the team is awesome, and each interaction he has with Team Avatar is hysterical, I just wish there was more of it. All in all, this is a great season of TV and a perfect conclusion to the series. It's just not quite my number one. My number one is going to be Avatar: The Last Airbender Book 2 Earth. This book is basically a perfect season of TV in my mind. Each plotline, character arc, and theme plays out to perfection. This season perfectly continues the arcs of returning characters like Aang, Katara, Sokka, and especially Zuko, while also introducing a ton of great new characters like Toph, Mai, Ty Lee, and of course, Azula. This season starts out with the Avatar state, which is one of the best season premieres in the franchise. It then keeps the momentum going with the 1-2-3 punch of Zuko alone, the chase, and better work. The pace keeps quickening and the tension keeps building until an explosive season finale in The Crossroads of Destiny. There are a few mediocre-ish standalone episodes like The Cave of Two Lovers and Avatar Day, but even those help flesh out the universe and make it feel more lived in. All in all, this is just about a perfect season of TV to me and easily my favorite in the Avatar franchise. That's it, that's my ranking. How would y'all rank the Avatar seasons? I have a feeling my ranking will be pretty unpopular and a lot of y'all's will be very different than mine. If you want to see more Avatar content, check out this playlist. What other Avatar videos do you guys want to see? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Bye.